Last summer, I went to the beach for the first time in many years. Life had been busy and heavy, filled with responsibilities, deadlines, and endless worries. I felt tired, not just physically, but emotionally. So one morning, without planning too much, I decided to take a break. I packed a small bag, wore my light blue dress, and left home with one simple wish: to feel free again. The journey to the beach was peaceful. The sky was clear, painted with soft white clouds. As the bus moved closer to the sea, I could already smell the salty air. My heart began to feel lighter with every passing minute. It was as if the ocean was calling me. When I finally arrived, the sight in front of me took my breath away. The sea stretched endlessly, shining under the golden sun. Waves rolled gently toward the shore, whispering secrets only the sand could understand. Children were running along the water, building sand castles and laughing freely. Couples walked hand in hand, leaving footprints behind them. Everything felt alive. I took off my sandals and stepped onto the warm sand. It felt soft and comforting under my feet. Slowly, I walked toward the water. When the first wave touched my toes, I shivered. The water was cool and refreshing. I closed my eyes and let it wash over me. For a moment, all my worries disappeared. I found a quiet spot away from the crowd and sat down. The sound of the waves was calming, like a lullaby. I watched the horizon where the sky met the sea. It looked endless, full of possibilities. I realized how small my problems were compared to the vast ocean. As I sat there, memories from my childhood came rushing back. I remembered visiting the beach with my parents when I was little. My father used to hold my hand tightly as I tried to run into the waves. My mother would laugh and warn me not to go too far. Those were simple days filled with pure happiness. I hadn't thought about those memories in years. Lost in my thoughts, I didn't notice someone approaching until I heard a soft voice. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" I turned and saw an elderly woman standing beside me. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile. I nodded and smiled back. "Yes, it is," I replied. She sat down beside me and looked at the sea. "The ocean has a way of healing hearts," she said quietly. Her words surprised me. It felt like she could see the sadness I had been carrying. "Do you come here often?" I asked. She shook her head. "Only when I need to remind myself that life is bigger than my fears." We sat in silence for a while. There was something comforting about her presence. She told me she had lost her husband years ago, and whenever she missed him, she came to the beach. "The waves remind me that everything comes and goes," she said. "Pain, happiness, love, they all move like the sea." Her words stayed with me. After she left, I decided to walk along the shoreline. The wind played with my hair and the sun warmed my skin. I felt alive in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I bent down and picked up a small seashell. It was imperfect, but beautiful. I put it in my bag as a reminder of this day. Later, I joined some children who were trying to build a large sand castle. At first, I felt shy, but one little girl smiled at me and handed me a plastic shovel. "Help us," she said happily. I laughed and sat down with them. Together, we built towers and walls. When a wave came and destroyed part of our castle, the children laughed instead of crying. They simply started building again. Watching them, I learned something important. Life is like a sand castle. Sometimes waves will destroy what we build, but we can always start again. As the afternoon slowly turned into evening, the sky changed colors. Orange, pink, and purple shades painted the horizon. It was the most beautiful sunset I had ever seen. People gathered to watch it, their faces glowing under the golden light. I stood there, feeling grateful. Before leaving, I walked toward the water one last time. I let the waves touch my feet again. This time, I whispered softly, "Thank you." The beach had given me more than just a day of relaxation. It had given me peace. It had reminded me of my childhood, of resilience, of the beauty in simple moments. Most importantly, it reminded me that no matter how heavy life feels, there is always a place where the heart can rest. When I finally returned home that night, I felt different. The problems in my life were still there, but they no longer felt overwhelming. I placed the small seashell on my desk. Every time I look at it, I remember the sound of the waves, the laughter of children, and the wise words of the elderly woman. That day at the beach changed something inside me. It taught me to breathe, to slow down, and to appreciate the present moment. Sometimes we don't need expensive trips or grand adventures to find happiness. Sometimes all we need is the sea, the sand, and the courage to let go, even if just for a little while. And that is the story of the day I went to the beach, a simple day that turned into one of the most meaningful days of my life. A week after my trip to the beach, something strange happened. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The sound of the waves echoed in my mind while I worked. The image of the sunset appeared in my thoughts when I closed my eyes at night. Even the small seashell on my desk seemed to glow under the light of my room, as if it carried a piece of the ocean inside it. Life slowly returned to its normal rhythm. I woke up early, prepared breakfast, answered emails, and completed my daily tasks. But something inside me had changed. I was calmer. When problems appeared, I didn't panic. Instead, I remembered the elderly woman's words. Everything comes and goes, like the sea. One afternoon, after a long and stressful day, I almost felt myself breaking down again. Deadlines were tight, a misunderstanding at work made me feel frustrated. For a moment, the old anxiety tried to return. But instead of crying or getting angry, I did something different. I closed my eyes. I imagined the beach. I imagined the soft sand beneath my feet and the cool waves touching my skin. I imagined the children laughing as their sandcastle fell apart, and how they simply built it again. Suddenly, the problem in front of me didn't seem so big. That evening, I made a decision. I would not wait for another year to feel peaceful again. I would create small beach moments in my everyday life. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I made a cup of tea and sat by the window as the sun slowly rose. The sky had soft orange colors, almost like the sunset at the beach. The air felt fresh and quiet. It wasn't the ocean, but it felt peaceful. Days passed, and I started noticing small, beautiful things around me. The way the wind moved the trees, the sound of rain tapping on the roof, the laughter of children playing outside. I realized that peace doesn't only live near the sea. It lives everywhere, if we slow down enough to see it. One weekend, I decided to visit the beach again. This time, I went with less sadness and more excitement. When I arrived, the waves seemed louder, more welcoming. I walked confidently toward the shore, as if greeting an old friend. To my surprise, I saw the same elderly woman sitting on a bench near the sand. She recognized me immediately and smiled. "You came back," she said. "Yes," I replied. "I think I needed to." She laughed softly. The sea has that effect on people. We talked for a long time. I told her how that day had changed me, how I was trying to live differently, more peacefully. She listened carefully and nodded. "You see," she said, The beach didn't change your life. You changed it. The ocean only reminded you of what was already inside you. Her words touched my heart deeply. As the sun began to set again, I realized something important. Peace is not a place, it is a feeling, and once we discover it, we can carry it anywhere. Before leaving, the elderly woman handed me something, a slightly larger seashell than the one I had found before. "For your collection," she said gently, "and for the days when the waves feel far away." I hugged her, feeling grateful. On my way home, I understood that this was not just a story about going to the beach. It was a story about learning to breathe again, about learning that life will always have storms, but after every storm, the sea becomes calm once more. That night, I placed the new seashell beside the first one. They sat quietly on my desk, simple yet powerful reminders of growth. Since then, whenever life feels heavy, I don't run away from it. I face it, like standing before the waves. Some waves are small, some are strong, but they always return to the sea. And so do we. The beach is no longer just a place I visit. It has become a part of who I am. Months passed after my second visit to the beach, but the feeling it gave me never disappeared. Instead, it slowly became a quiet strength inside me. Life, of course, did not become perfect. There were still difficult days. There were moments of disappointment, misunderstandings, and nights when sleep refused to come. But something was different now. I no longer felt like I was drowning in my problems. Instead, I felt like someone learning how to swim. One evening, after a particularly hard day, I received unexpected news. A project I had worked on for months had failed. All my effort, time, and hope felt wasted. My chest tightened and tears filled my eyes. The old version of me would have broken down completely. But this time, I did something else. I took the two seashells from my desk and held them in my hands. I remembered the children rebuilding their sandcastle after the waves destroyed it. I remembered the elderly woman's voice. Everything comes and goes. Suddenly, I realized something powerful. The waves didn't destroy the sandcastle to punish the children. They simply followed their nature. And the children didn't stop building because they understood something adults often forget. Building again is always possible. That night, instead of giving up, I opened my notebook and started planning again. I asked myself, what can I learn from this? Slowly, disappointment turned into determination. A few days later, I decided to do something brave. I invited a few friends to join me on a trip to the beach. I wanted to share the place that had changed me. When we arrived, the sky was cloudy. The sea looked darker than before, and strong winds pushed the waves forward with force. "This doesn't look like a good day for the beach," one of my friends said nervously, but I smiled. "Stay," I said. "Just watch." We stood together as the waves crashed loudly against the shore. The wind blew through our hair, and the sand moved beneath our feet. It was not calm. It was wild and powerful. And yet, it was beautiful. "Do you see?" I said softly. "The sea is not always peaceful, but it is still strong. It is still itself." We sat together on the sand, talking about life, dreams, fears, and regrets. One by one, my friends opened their hearts. They shared struggles I never knew they carried. In that moment, I realized something else. Everyone is fighting their own waves. As the storm slowly calmed, a small line of golden light appeared between the clouds. The sun was trying to break through. Within minutes, the sky transformed. The dark gray softened into soft pink and orange. My friends gasped at the sudden beauty. "That's why you wanted us to stay," one of them whispered. I nodded. Storms do not last forever. That evening, I walked alone toward the water. The sea was calmer now, almost gentle again. I stepped into the cool water and felt a deep sense of gratitude. I realized that the beach had taught me 3 important lessons. First, life is always moving. Like the waves, nothing stays the same, neither pain nor happiness. Second, when something falls apart, we can always rebuild, just like the sandcastle. Third, even storms create beautiful sunsets. As the final light disappeared beyond the horizon, I made a promise to myself. I would no longer wait for peace to find me. I would create it. I would protect it. I would remember it. When I returned home that night, I placed a framed photo of the sea above my desk. The 2 seashells rested beneath it, quiet and strong. Now, whenever I face a difficult moment, I imagine standing at the shore again. I imagine the endless horizon, reminding me that my story is still being written. Going to the beach was never just a simple trip. It was the beginning of learning how to live. Years have passed since the first day I went to the beach to escape my tired and restless life. If someone had told me that one simple trip would quietly change the way I see the world, I would not have believed them. But now I know, sometimes the smallest journeys create the deepest transformations. Life continued to test me. There were losses I could not avoid. There were dreams that did not come true. There were relationships that faded like footprints in the sand. I learned that growing up does not mean life becomes easier. It simply means we become stronger. One winter morning, I received heartbreaking news. The elderly woman I had met at the beach had passed away. A small local notice mentioned her name and how much she loved the sea. My hands trembled as I read it. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at the seashells on my desk. I felt sadness, but strangely, I also felt peace. She had once told me that everything moves like the ocean. People come into our lives like gentle waves. Some stay longer, some leave sooner, but each one leaves something behind. And she had left me something priceless: wisdom. That very weekend, I went back to the beach alone. The sky was clear and bright, as if the world itself was calm. The sea stretched endlessly before me, shining under the sunlight. I walked slowly toward the water, carrying the larger seashell she had given me. I stood at the shore and closed my eyes. I could almost hear her voice again. The ocean doesn't take, it teaches. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but they were not tears of despair. They were tears of gratitude. I knelt down and gently placed the seashell into the water. A small wave came forward and carried it away. I watched until it disappeared beneath the surface. It felt like saying goodbye, but it also felt like setting something free. As I stood there, I realized how much I had changed since the first time I came here feeling broken and lost. Back then, I wanted the ocean to take away my pain. Now I understood that pain is part of life. It shapes us, it deepens us, it makes us human.
The wind wrapped around me softly, and I smiled through my tears. A little boy nearby was trying to fly a kite. The wind was strong, and the kite kept falling. Each time it dropped, he ran to pick it up again, laughing instead of giving up. Finally, after several attempts, the kite soared high into the sky. I watched him with a warm heart. That was life. You fall. You try again. You rise. As the sun began to set, the sky transformed into brilliant shades of gold and pink. The waves glowed under the fading light, and everything felt magical. I whispered quietly, "Thank you. Thank you for the storms. Thank you for the calm. Thank you for the lessons. When I returned home that evening, I removed one of the seashells from my desk and placed it in a small glass jar. The other one I left outside on my balcony where it could feel the wind and the rain. I wanted to remember that peace is not something to hide away. It must breathe. It must be shared. From that day forward, whenever someone around me felt overwhelmed or lost, I told them about the beach. I told them about the waves that destroy and rebuild. I told them about sunsets after storms. I told them about an elderly woman who believed the sea could heal hearts. And slowly, I saw the same light of understanding appear in their eyes. I no longer go to the beach because I need to escape. I go because it feels like home. The beach taught me that life is not about avoiding the waves. It is about standing strong when they come. It is about trusting that after the loudest storm, there will always be silence. After the darkest night, there will always be sunrise. And most importantly, it taught me that peace is not found in places. It is found within. The ocean still moves. The waves still rise and fall. The sunsets still paint the sky with hope. And I continue to live, braver, calmer, and grateful. Because one day I went to the beach, and I never came back the same.